You know, for as long as we've had dogs by our side, we've looked at them and wondered, what is actually going on in there? In this explainer, we're going to try and peel back the layers of the canine mind, starting with their secret dream world and going all the way to some pretty groundbreaking science that's finally giving us a real peek inside.
I mean, it's a question every single dog owner has asked, right? You see their little paws twitching, you hear those muffled yips, and you can't help but wonder, what are they chasing? Are they dreaming about that squirrel from earlier today?
Well, you're gonna love this. According to Harvard psychologist Dr. Deirdre Barrett, the answer is actually pretty simple, and, well, it's just incredibly heartwarming. Think about it. A dog's life revolves around their bond with their person. So when they dream, chances are they're dreaming about you. And look, this isn't just some feel-good guess. This whole idea is actually rooted in the fact that our brains, human and canine, work in surprisingly similar ways when we're asleep. The parallels are pretty striking.
What's really fascinating is when you look at our sleep cycles side by side. We both go through different stages of sleep, but the really important one here is REM, which stands for Rapid Eye Movement Sleep. For both of us, that's pretty much dream central.
So, yeah, next time you see your dog's eyes darting around behind their eyelids, that's it. That's the telltale sign they've hit the REM stage. Their brain is fired up, they're deep in a dream, and all that twitching and those little leg kicks, that's just them acting out a little piece of it.
Okay, so dreams are one thing, but that's just the tip of the iceberg, right? What about when they're wide awake, just staring at you with those big eyes? How do we move past the guesswork and find out what they're actually thinking?
Believe me, this is not a new question for the world of science. Researchers have been chipping away at this puzzle for decades, looking at it from, well, every angle you can imagine, from their genetics and evolutionary history, all the way to their unique social skills.
And we're not talking about some niche little field either. This is serious, in-depth academic work. There are huge studies and major publications, like this one, all dedicated to one thing: decoding our four-legged friends.
And scientists are really tackling it from all sides. They're looking into genetics to figure out why a border collie has that instinct to herd. They're studying social cognition to see how dogs read our emotions. It is a massive, complex, and fascinating picture.
But it always came back to this one enormous roadblock. No matter how clever your experiment is, you can't just ask a dog, "Hey, what's on your mind right now?" And that was always the limit. That is, until someone had a truly radical idea.
This is where neuroscientist Gregory Berns comes in. He had this realization. He thought, wait a minute, we train military dogs to do these incredibly complex, high-stress jobs. So, what if we could apply that same level of training to a scientific challenge?
And this wasn't just some thought he had. He actually did it. He started something called the Dog Project, which was a revolutionary attempt to do something nobody had ever managed before: get a scan of a dog's brain while it was fully awake and totally unrestrained.
And the training process is just mind-blowing. First, the dogs had to get used to the super loud noises of an MRI machine. Then, they had to learn to walk up into this tight, enclosed space on their own. And then, and this is the hardest part, they had to put their chin on a rest and hold perfectly still, sometimes for minutes at a time, all voluntarily.
And the result of all that patience and training, a monumental breakthrough in science. For the very first time, we could see images of brain activity from a dog that was just lying there, thinking, processing the world around it.
It was a total game changer. I mean, all those theories about what dogs feel and think, they could now be tested by looking directly at the source, the brain itself. It was like opening a window that had been sealed shut for thousands of years.
And suddenly you could start asking all these incredible new questions. We can literally see which parts of their brain light up when they see a hand signal from their owner. We can see how their brain reacts to a familiar voice versus a stranger's. We can finally start to map out the very roots of our connection.
But this is where the story takes a really interesting turn. Because peering into the mind of a dog doesn't just teach us about them. It ends up reflecting something really, really profound back at us about our own history as a species.
This quote from the research team says it all. You know, we always talk about how we domesticated wolves and we made dogs. But what if that was a two-way street? What if, in the process of making dogs, they also made us?
The theory basically goes like this: that unique ability we have to form a bond and communicate across species, it might not have just been a fun quirk. It could have been a critical survival advantage. Early humans who could team up with dogs for hunting, for protection, they would have had a serious edge.
Which brings it all back to that simple, quiet moment between you and your dog. When they look at you, they're not just seeing the person who fills their food bowl, they're seeing the other half of a partnership that's tens of thousands of years old, a bond so deep it may have literally helped shape what it means to be human. So, what do you think they're really thinking?